Welcome to the Berry Tramel Show. We're joined today by Rich Clark, retired Air Force General, Superintendent of the Air Force Academy, who has a new assignment, Executive Director of the College Football Playoff. I think running the Air Force Academy might come with fewer complications than the College Football Playoff. We'll ask Rich about that. Rich, thanks for joining me. And we're in the heart of college football season, and we're in October, and we're counting down to the first reveal of the playoff committee's rankings. How's it gone for you this first full year running the college football playoff?
Well, first, thanks, Barry, for having me. It's great to see you again and excited to be here with you. It hadn't been quite a year yet. It's actually only been 4 months. So I am very, very new. At least I'm trying to hold on to the new guy card because you get a little more forgiveness. But I will tell you, it has been amazing. I absolutely love being a part of CFP, of the College Football Playoff. And what we're doing is so huge because we're moving into this new era. The 12-team playoff is going to be spectacular. And the fact that I got this job and I got it now just boggles my mind. I must be the luckiest person on earth. So it's been awesome. It really has been.
Of course, you spent the past season sort of monitoring, being mentored by Bill Hancock, following the procedure. What do you anticipate is the biggest difference from the committee needing to pick four, put up a 4-team bracket, to tripling in size, a 12-team bracket? What are the biggest challenges facing this 2024 committee?
Well, I think at its core, their job is really very similar, right? They still have to pick the 25 best teams in the country and rank them. That's been their job since their inception. The thing that's different now, though, is the way that the teams will be seeded. And I think that's a bit of confusion for a lot of people because ranking and seeding are very different. And so the committee will rank them using the art, the science, the data, and everything else at their fingertips to get to those 25 best teams. But the seeding is actually in accordance with the protocol from the commissioners. So it won't be, I think, as taxing on them, but it's still something that they have to do so that they can then fill in the bracket for the playoff. But if you are watching the selection committee in action, that's the one thing that's going to be different that you wouldn't have seen before that we'll see this year.
When you look at that, and of course, I went through the mock selection a few weeks ago with you guys down in Dallas, and other people have done that. You've sat through last year's selections. Is just the public perception of what you're doing, is that a big hurdle for you, or is that somebody else's job to get that message out that, hey, this is the new world order?
No, that's a great question. It's our job really to try to educate and talking to people like you who understand it, who can ask us the right questions so that we can try to get it out to the fans out there, the coaches, the athletic directors, because even some of them aren't completely clear on this because it is so different. But education is a big part of this. We want people to have trust and faith in what the committee does because it really is a group of people with high integrity who know football. They are experienced and they've been doing it for a long time. So we have the right people on the committee, and they know their job. They know what they're supposed to do. And we really want people to understand that they do have the integrity to get it done right and to really give us those 25 best teams so that we can see the champion actually crowned on the field. But it's about educating, and that is part of our job.
Of course, you've been involved with college football for many years. People may not know it. You were a linebacker on an Air Force team that finished in the top 10 in the AP poll
That's right.
I think it was 1986. And so over the years, as we developed the BCS, and then we go into the college football playoff, how much attention or how much interest did you take in just following the proceedings of college football's postseason?
Oh, I always watched it, but I clearly I watched it with a different eye as a fan, and I have tracked college football pretty much my whole life. But watching it from the eyes of a fan versus the eyes of somebody who's supposed to be administering it is very different. And like most fans, I was a little cynical. I always argued for the teams that I liked, and thought that they got robbed if they didn't get everything that I hoped they would get. But in this seat, I look at it to actually make sure that we're doing the right thing, that we're doing right by fans. And I know everyone's not going to agree with us all the time. It just can't happen. But what we have to know is that we did the right things at the right time so that the right teams are actually playing for that championship. And that's our goal. But for my whole life, honestly, I just love the sport. I love what it does for people. I love the character development. I love what student athletes get to do to see their dreams come true. I just love everything about it. And it's a little bit different. I love pro football too, but college football has a certain passion about it that pro football maybe doesn't have, in my view. People are connected to it in just a little bit of a different way. And I love that about it. And it's what connects me to it as well. So I just love being a part of this right now.
What have you learned about the process when you first got interested in the job and then accepted the job and went through the mentorship period and all those kinds of things? What have you learned about this entire process that you didn't know when you first got involved with the CFP?
Well, I think I learned that people really do invest in this big time. People who work to make this happen, to make college football what it is, are very passionate about it. And there is a lot of behind the scenes work that has to happen. So I'm very appreciative of that. I think understanding how the commissioners are really the ones who influence how college football goes is a bit of an eye opener to me, because the commissioners are important. They're the thinkers. They're the ones that really understand that the impact, I think, that decisions can have, not just on college football, but what happens with college football impacts every other sport at every institution. And so it is really critical that they get things right. The decisions that they make, they understand the ramifications, and I think they take their jobs. I knew they took it seriously, but even more so than I imagined, and I like being a part of that.
When you bring up the commissioners, we've got a variety of reports said the Big Ten and the SEC are getting together to talk about a variety of things, including possibly wanting guaranteed playoff spots, a minimum, some say 4, whatever the number might be. Is the playoff committee, would they be involved in discussions like that? Or are you just like the police force? You don't make the laws, you just enforce them. Where's your stand? How does the playoff committee get involved in policy when it comes
Right.
to playoff?
So we work with the commissioners to really see what their options are, to help them to understand what the ramifications might be. But in the end, they make the rules, and then we enforce them. We make sure that we execute the way that they see fit. And I'm very comfortable in that role, because the commissioners are some highly experienced people, really, really smart folks, and do a great job. So we don't take a lot of I would say, the role of making laws. We just enforce and execute them, and make sure that we're abiding by the rules, and so are the other teams and our selection committee and all the other people that we work with to make the playoff happen. We make sure that it goes the way the commissioners envisioned it going.
Let's go back a little bit in your life. A glorious military career, then heading the Air Force Academy, been involved in combat, major decisions, just an unbelievable career that you've had. How's that prepared you for this job that so many people, on the grand scheme of things, it's not that big a deal, except it dominates some people's lives? How has that prepared you? How has your military career, your Air Force days prepared you for this role with the CFP?
That's a great question. I think the first thing that it did is it helped me to have a thick skin, and it helped me to be able to take the fire that I know is going to happen. I mean, I know there's going to be something or some things that people aren't happy about, and somebody's got to take responsibility for them, and that's me. So I'm ready for that. I just got to know that we're doing the right thing, and that we've executed in the right way. And then, you have to be able to take the heat sometime, but that's leadership, right? You make the decisions, you do the absolute best you can, and then you deal with the ramifications of it. So I think in one way, having a thick skin and developing that sort of resilience has been real important. The other thing is, in the military, you oftentimes work with a lot of different people from different organizations, different countries, different services. And as a leader in the military, your goal is to pull the whole team together and move everybody in the same direction and in the right direction, and try to inspire them to a greater purpose. And I think that's part of my job here too, because we have a lot of different partners that we work with, and it's my job to help pull us all together so that we put on a great football playoff, and that we actually crown the champion in the right way. And then the last thing that I'll say, in the military, you lead leaders, and leading leaders is a little bit different, especially when they're high performing, highly talented and skilled leaders. Sometimes it's my job to help move them in the right direction. And that can be a challenge sometimes. But what you don't want to do is ever diminish their value and what they're inputting, or I think put them in a position where they can't lead effectively. And that's something that I think is for me to be able to navigate, especially like with our commissioners and the presidents of the universities and institutions that we work with, but also all of our partners. They're all led by highly capable, highly intelligent people, and I got to be able to move the whole team in the right direction. So I think the military's kind of helped me with that, but I'm still learning. I'm a work in progress, no question.
Well, just in the few months, starting with Big 12 Media Days in Vegas, SEC Media Days in Dallas, those are the two I attended. But starting with that and your sort of your public persona as it relates to the college football playoff, it strikes me that you're an outstanding communicator. Will you be more front and center going forward, do you think? Or will we see you pretty much in the role that Bill Hancock was in for these last 10 years?
Well, I'll go front and center, I think, as much as I need to. You brought up a great point early in this interview right now about education. And I felt like two things that I really need to do as the executive director is help to educate people as much as possible so that they understand what the playoff is going to bring and how it's going to be executed. And a lot of times, if people are like me, I got to hear it like 3 or 4 times anyway, and then I got to see it. So we need to just keep putting the word out. I need to keep putting the word out so people can hear it. And then when they see it, they know we're not just making something up. They're like, actually, they told us that the 5 highest ranked champions were going to get the automatic qualifier. We have said that so many times, but people won't register until they actually see it. And that's how I am anyway. So I have to do that. I have to be out front and make sure that people get it. The other thing that I want to do and that I need to do is to help build the excitement. And when I talk about it in a way that people can really understand just how amazing it's going to be. Because I honestly believe it's going to be spectacular. And I want people to understand that as well and get excited and let that momentum build so that when we hit the playoff, it's like, man, that couldn't have been better. And I just hope that people will take in the experience and remember. And it's the first time people are going to remember this for the first, because it is the first time. And then we just need to get better and better every time we do it. So I think I do need to be out front just a little bit, to help educate and help excite people about the playoff.
When you look at this, the new format, 12 teams, I can't imagine a controversy arising that would match what we had a year ago when we only had 4 slots, 5 deserving teams. Clearly, you could make the case that we had 6 deserving teams, but whatever. I mean, that was a cataclysmic decision for somebody that the committee was forced to make. Committee's not the one that set it up. They're just, as you said, enforcing the laws. Do you anticipate when you're picking the last team this year, it's probably going to be an 11 seed? It strikes me that it can't be as massive of a decision as we saw a year ago. In some ways, does the 12-team format take a little bit of the pressure off the playoff committee in the same way that the basketball committee draws some heat with the last team selected, the last team left out? But we're not talking about a powerhouse that clearly deserves to be in the field automatically.
Yeah, so I agree with you. What I think the heat that's taken off the committee is the fact that within those 12 teams, we can be pretty well assured that one of those 12 teams is the team that is the rightful champion, and they'll play it out on the field, but they'll have the opportunity to show that they're the champion. When it's 4 teams, there's that risk that one of those teams that you pick, or one of those teams you don't pick, number 5, number 6, maybe they were the ones that would have won it. And you don't know that until it's played out on the field. But in this new format, I think once we get down to like team 13, 14, 15, 16, the likelihood that they will be able to fight all the way through the bracket and win, that they're that good, is probably lower. Not unheard of. So you can never say never, but I think our odds are a lot better that we're going to have the right team in there somewhere in that bracket. But I want to say one thing though: the teams that get ranked by the committee, they're not the most deserving teams; they're the best teams. And there's a little bit of a difference there, because you can look at a team that goes through and they win all their games, and people go, they deserve to be in the playoff. But then you can see other teams that maybe their schedule was tougher, or maybe they had some really close losses against some spectacular, amazing teams. We have to be able to look at whose performance throughout the season, the whole body of work, really sets them apart as the best team. And a lot of times, and you hope that the teams that are the best are also the teams that are most deserving. But the committee's job is to pick the best teams, and that's really important. It's a subtle distinction, but it's an important one. So we want to make sure that that's clear. But the other thing I'll say is there's still going to be controversy. If you are seeded number 8 or versus number 9, that
Right.
number 9 team now isn't going to get a home field advantage in that first round, where number 8 will. That there could be a little bit of controversy there. Or if you were team, 13, 14, or 15, there could be an argument that you should be seeded into the playoff, and there could be a little bit of controversy there. So there's some opportunities, I think, throughout the seeding of those teams that, some teams are going to miss a certain standing, a certain tier of the bracket that would have given them a certain advantage. And there'll be people that will talk about it and feel bad about it, but not, like you said, nothing like being left out completely from the playoffs. So I think this format's going to help us a lot, and it's going to give us a best opportunity to pick the best team.
One thing going through the mock selections a couple of weeks ago, and I'd done it about 7 years ago, I was really impressed with the information available to the committee members. I don't know that the public fully understands. Every committee member is outfitted with an iPad in which it's easy to call up any game involving any team and watch it in a variety of ways. Wes Gentry told us that some committee members, Will Shields, for instance, becomes an expert on teams just watching them, can tell you the offensive lineman's name on all the relevant teams, those kinds of things, plus the information that you make available on the computers. I don't know that the college football public realizes the extent to which the committee is given information and uses that information to come to the best decision. Do you think we could do a better job of educating people that, hey, this process isn't just not guys sitting around a bar picking teams. I mean, this is a very detailed, in-depth, discussion-driven process.
Yeah, you're so right. We're taking some steps to try to educate folks on exactly what they do, but I think people would be amazed to see the lengths that these committee members go through to educate themselves. I mean, before they even get into the committee room, like you said, they're watching, anywhere from 15 to 25 games before they get there. They're on the iPad. The games are cut. They sort of cut out some of the middle parts between plays, but they watch every play in a game, and they're able to do that in about 30 minutes. But then they'll watch 12, 15, some 25 games in a weekend so that they can rank order those teams before they come. Then they come, and then they start voting, like you saw. They start listing and voting teams, and they use so much data. Like, there is incredible amounts of data, but we use really only a certain few key metrics that highlight what the best team's performances are. And then sometimes it gets down into the margins where they're looking at things beyond wins and losses. They're looking at now strength of schedule. They're looking at head-to-head competition. They're looking at their performance against common opponents. They're looking at other factors that just really separate the good teams from the great teams. And that's what that committee does, and they do a great job of it. The discussion, like you just hit on, is probably the most important part, because each committee member comes from a different place in football. Some are players, some are coaches, some are journalists, some are athletic directors, and they all look at the game in a different way with a different lens. But when they are able to talk about it, they're able to put out there what they see and share that with the other members, because maybe the other members didn't see it because they don't look at it that way. And that just helps the discussion. It helps them make great decisions. And I think the process is rich and it has a lot of integrity to it. So I'm very proud of the way that this has been set up, the way Bill Hancock, who is really the godfather of the college football playoff, the way he set this up. I think it's really a very impressive program with a lot of integrity, and people should be proud. We have to do better to educate folks, though, and we're constantly thinking about how we can do that.
Well, let's do a little education right here, and let's hit the highlights on the message you want to impart to college football fans. Let's start with the 4 byes, 4 conference champions. Doesn't matter if two teams in the same league are 1 and 2 in your rankings. That second team is not going to be seeded in the top 4.
That's right. So we will take the 5 highest ranked conference champions. The top 4 of them will get a bye. They'll be seeded 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the 5th one, the 5th champion, will be seeded either if they're ranked higher than 12, they'll be seeded wherever they were ranked. But if they were lower, let's say they were ranked 17, then they'll be seeded at number 12, that 5th conference champion. So that's the first thing that'll happen. We'll seed those top 4 champions, and then the 5th champion wherever they deem to be seeded. So that happens first.
And then we have 4 home games. The first round seeds 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11, 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9. Those are unrelated to conference affiliation.
That's right. The next 7 teams that will go into the seeding will be the highest ranked 7 teams after those conference champions. So they will then fill in the rest of the seeds so that we have a total of 12 teams seeded. And then we fill in the bracket from there. And like you said, teams 5 through 8, teams seeded 5 through 8 will get the home field advantage. And those first round games will be played on their campuses. That's going to be crazy. I think that might be the most exciting part of the whole playoff. It'll be the biggest game for a lot of campuses that they've ever had in their history. So it's going to be really exciting. But teams 5, 6, 7, and 8 will have that opportunity.
And finally, on the bracket, those four champions that are seeded 1 through 4, they will be slotted according to historic bowl, either contracts or bowl affiliation.
That's right. So for the next 2 years anyway, we have contractual bowls between our New Year's Six bowls and the teams that will go in. So we'll do the best that we can to match them with their historically contracted bowls. And that way they're playing in a place where they would have played anyway. So that's a good feature, and I think it's good for both the institutions, but also for our bowl partners.
All right, Rich, this has been great. What have I not asked you about the college football playoff that you would like to tell college football fans?
Well, let's see. I think the most important thing is that keep watching, because every game matters. We're going to go right into November, understanding how the landscape is going to shape right up to the end. The whole season really matters all the way to the playoff until we get that final ranking. So it couldn't be more exciting to watch the playoff, but personally, I think it makes the whole season more exciting. So follow your teams, track them wherever they are. It's going to be amazing, and we're all going to be watching on the edges of our seats, and then playoff starts, and then it's just going to be incredible. So I'm excited. I know you are. I know you're excited. So, but it's going to be great. And I just appreciate your advocacy and all you do, to get it out there and to help us educate folks on what's going on. So, thank you, Barry. We all appreciate you.
You bet. Well, thanks, Rich. And let me say this, here in Oklahoma, we're pretty proud of Bill Hancock. And we, for 40 years, we've appreciated his status in college athletics, but also his personality and his connectivity with virtually everyone, and the impossible shoes that he was leaving behind. But after meeting you this summer, dealing with you in Dallas, I was talking to Jenny Carlson the other day. I said, you know what? I think they found somebody worthy to fill Bill's shoes. So you're off to a great start, Rich, and we're glad to have you.
I got to tell you, no one's filling Bill's shoes. I owe my whole being here to him. He's just a gracious man. He taught me a lot before I came into the job, and he left this program in such a good place with the team that he created to run it, with the way that the playoffs are situated right now so that we could move into this 12-team format. We all owe Bill a huge debt of gratitude. College football, should look at him as one of our pioneers and one of the people that made it great. So love Bill Hancock. So does his team here. Never fill his shoes, but I'll try to pick up the torch and keep it moving. So, but we appreciate you. Thanks for having me on your show, Bear. I appreciate that.
Thanks a lot. Rich Clark, retired Air Force General and Executive Director of the College Football Playoff. Stay tuned for more college football coverage at TulsaWorld.com and every day in the Tulsa World.